Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for purchasing the Chorus Concert Riser templates. I created these for my own students, my own chorus kids, because I just needed a way to figure out who was going to stand where. So um, I'm glad somebody else is getting some use out of it. And I wanted to do a little walkthrough video on how to actually make use of Canva if you are someone who is new to this program. Before I start, everything that is used in all of the templates is part of the Canva free version. So even if you do not want to pay for the Canva educational access, I think it's like $99 a year, then you have everything in here is printable, it's downloadable, you're good to go. All right, so let's start. First of all, included in this, there are two sets of templates. One is configured and one is blank. And I'm going to show you how to use both of them today. So the configured risers are already full and labeled. All you have to do is change the names for your students. The blank ones are just exactly what they sound like. They're blank risers only, and you can add your own circles and names as needed. So this first one that we're looking at here is a four-step riser configured template. So I want to show you how to actually use this. So the first thing is what you're going to do is you're going to want to actually add names instead of just saying name. So the easiest way to do this is actually to zoom in a little bit just to give you a little bit more viewing. And you just double click on the first name. So if we're going to change that, let's change it to Heather, right? Now, the first thing I notice as my little type A personality comes in is that Heather is now in two different things and our circle is no longer a circle. Now, if that bothers you the way it bothers me, then you can just readjust the size of the text and that's fine. Um, if it doesn't bother you, you're fine. Just keep it as it is. So you could go through your whole student roster and put in Heather, and let's put in Nancy. And over here, we're going to put in Jamie, right? And you can all put in them in however you want them to go, and each name will fill in, right? Another thing you might want to do in here, just because if you are wanting to make this more might want to change the name or the colors of these circles. So just click on one of the circles and I'll show you the magic of this, right? Click on one of the circles and let's say you want it to be black because you have a black and white printer, right? So now you'll notice that Nancy's circle, the one that I had clicked on, is now black. And it gives you this option down here to change all. And ta-da, they're all changed black. But I will give you a word of caution here because when you do this, it changes all of them on all of the pages. So now all of your risers are different color or changed to whatever color you just made it. So make sure that if you do that change, that you actually want it to be on all of them because otherwise you're going to have to adjust it and it becomes a thing. Okay. The last thing you might need or want to do is you might need or want to delete spots or add spots. So if I zoom out like this, right, this is a four-step risers of four of them, right? So there is a capacity of 82 people on here. And I did my best to fill them as well as I could, but still in a reasonable sense so that the kids aren't like basically on top of each other the whole time. So if you wanted to delete a couple, you want to take a look at where that's going to be, where it's going to make the most sense on your risers. For myself, in this case, I would probably choose this one here and then this one over here to make this row a little bit less compact, I guess. And then you can either leave it like this, or if you're going to show this to your students, and if they're anything like mine, and they look at this and go, "Oh, but Miss, you told us that there was supposed to be a blank space there," you can actually drag these over so that they're in the spot and just drag them and give them more space. So you can do that so that you don't have to have that argument or, the one time your students look at something and interpret what it's supposed to mean. So you can do that. If you want to I'm sorry, that's deleting. If you want to add students because you need more than 82, right? Then you're going to just click on one of these. I would probably go in the front row because that's the easiest place to add a couple extra kids. So if you want to add a couple, you're going to click this one on the end here. Make sure you're only highlighting and getting the outline of the circle, not the text. And I'll show you why. So if I go on the text and I use this, then it's going to try to save it as a bookmark, and I don't want to save it as a bookmark. So I'm going to click remove and we're done with that. So if I just click on the actual circle, then I'm going to use the magic of Control D to duplicate it, right? Control D, duplicate. And then I just move it over to where I want to be. And then I go and do the same thing over here. So I click on the one on the other side, Control D, duplicate, and there you go. Control D is like my favorite thing ever. And then now I have extra kids in the front row. If you're talking about extra, extra, extra kids, then you're probably going to have to squeeze some of these kids in there a little bit more. And I'm going to leave that up to you how you want to configure that. But it's basically the same principle. Just add a new circle for who you need. Okay. Now, let's talk about the blank ones because they're a little bit, it's not harder, it's just different. And it's a little bit more on you to figure out how to do this. So let's say the first thing you need to do is add a circle for your students. There are some people who just can add names, and that's fine. I personally like the circles there because it helps me keep track of how many kids I have and where they're going to be, and then I put the names in. So first I'm going to go to Elements, and under Shapes, I'm going to just choose Circle, right? Basic Shapes, Circle. And for some reason, mine are always this color pink, whatever. So I'm going to shrink that down. Now, if I want to, I'm going to get a little bit closer because I want it to be the right size because otherwise it will bother me. So that's still a little bit too big, but that's okay. We make it like this. There we go. So now this first circle is there, and I have a couple options here. So I can, to put the name in, I can just double click in there and type in the name, right? Maybe just one uppercase letter. And what happens? It makes it that really weird thing. So I can, of course, redo the size of the font, make it 8 or 9 or whatever it's going to be. And there it is. I can also adjust the color of the font if I want to, because it sets it at black. Maybe I want it to be white. Totally fine. So I can play around with those things and kind of make it my own. Now, let's say I also want to change the color of this. So let's make it green. I don't know why, because why not? Now, our next one, we're going to put in another one. So I'm going to click on this circle. I'm going to click duplicate. But I want to show you one other way here to add this person's name. And it's not using this feature. So I'm going to delete this name here and get rid of it. I'm going to actually add a separate text box for the name, and I'll show you why in a second. So if I add a text box and then I say name number 2, right? So now I have name number 2 right here in the middle. It's still a little too big. I don't want it to be 16 font. So I'm going to go down to 12, right? But now I can sort this right in the middle, right? You can see the little lines there that pop up that show me it's centered. And I can adjust this name. So if I want it to be white again, I can make it white. I don't know why I like the white. I just do. So if I wanted to make it a different name, let's say I want this to be Heather again. Okay, so there's Heather. Notice the name is sort of a little bit outside of the circle, but that's okay. That does not bother me. Having the name outside of the circle doesn't bother me because I just want to know where this kid is and who it is. So you have kind of a couple options here. And I also like that it's a larger size font so I can read it when I print it because, I'm not getting any younger. So the name is here, or I can do this name, however way I want to do it. All right, so let's say it is time to make another student that I want to add in here. So a couple things. One, if I'm using this one, super easy, just click on it, Control D, duplicate, and there it is. If I'm using this one, there's a little bit extra to it. It's not a lot extra, just a little bit extra. So one is I want to click on the circle. I also want to click on and select the name at the same time. Now, Canva does not allow you to do control, like that's something you would do in like Google Slides or something. But in Canva, you have to use shift. So if you shift and the name, then I control D and it does it both for us. Right? So now I have Heather and I can change this to another name. Let's say I want to change it to Valentina, right? And it allows me to go a little bit longer. If it doesn't do that for whatever reason, if it doesn't let me to go longer, I can still just drag it out, make it go longer. That's fine. Okay. And then Control Z, if anything happens that you don't want to stay that way, just don't make it stay that way. Okay. So those are the two ways to do this. There's a couple of tips and things I want you to consider as you're doing this. First of all, consider how many singers you actually want on each row and adjust that before you start adding names. So even if you're doing this version here, right? So if you know you have, let's say you've got 15 kids in your select choir, you can just do name number one and then copy it and then do name number two and then copy it and name number three. And that way you make sure you have all of your kids taken care of and they all have a spot. And then you just change their names after you're done. You can also use AI. I've used Gemini, Google Gemini, to help me figure out how many kids I need in each row. Like I've got this many total kids and I've got this. Da, da, da. So I put in all my little stuff that they need to know and I go from there. The other thing you can do is that you can use different colors for each section of your chorus. So, for example, I'm going to scoot up here to this. I'm going to go up by four. Nope, I'm going to go up to the fours. So this is the fours that I did before, right? So let's say I want my sopranos to be, and I'm going to shift, 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 shift to get all of them down. Um, let's say I want my sopranos to be yellow, right? And maybe I want all that text to be black because it's yellow and the black will show up better. And then I want all of the altos, shift, before I click, shift, shift, shift. Let's say I want all of them to be red. Oops, wrong one. I changed the wrong thing. My bad. So I'm going to do that again. So let's make that black again, and I'm going to make the circle red. There we go. So I'm going to make them red just so I can see like where is everybody going and the kids can see where they are. The other thing I do when I use this is I actually have these little dot things. And here, let me see if I can find them. Yes, I have these little dot things that I got on Amazon, and I will include a link in the same file where I gave you the link to this video. But I have this and I put them on the risers. So I actually change these things. So let's say this whole section is yellow. Let's say, I'm just going to do this for as an example. I'm going to make all of these yellow. Right? And, black texts, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then I would do the same thing with the red over here. And then maybe I make this one blue, right? But however I do it, I make the colors based on the classes of where they're going to be standing. So I don't see all my chorus kids at the same time. I see them in different classes. So maybe I take these groups here and I make them all blue because this is my third period soprano group. And this over here is my like seventh period soprano group. So however it works, I can change all these colors if I want to. And it can make things easier or I can be making things more complicated for myself. Sometimes I do that too. But in any event, it's a choice that I make so that I have that available. It makes my life easier because I put the actual little floor stomp step things on the risers so they know exactly where to stand. Okay. The last thing that I want to point out is that you can actually drag and drop these circles so that you have them available for a future conference or a future concert. So if you know that Heather and Nancy and Jamie are going to be sopranos again for your next concert, you can just reuse it. So what I would recommend is use this little button up here that says duplicate page. And then did it duplicate? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Okay. So it duplicated the page. So what I would do here is I would actually just kind of bring all of these names down to the side. And then that way, or down to the bottom, however you want to state it. That way, when I go to set up my next concert, and I could even say four step risers, spring, right? And again, I can make that longer. But I can put this where I want them to be, and I can just drag and drop them to where they're going to go. The same thing is true in this for these. Now, once you have these kids set and all of their names are there, you have another tool here that you can use that will make this step easier. And that is one, highlight the circle, shift and highlight the names, and there it is. And it's got this group option. So now Valentina and her circle are something that they will just move together, right? So that's if you want to use the larger font and you can drag them around, then that's another option. So hopefully that is helpful. If you have any other issues or problems or questions about how to make something work, please, please, please feel free to reach out. I am kind of obsessed with Canva. It's like my favorite thing to play around with now. So I may, even if I don't have an answer for you, I will probably take some time and figure it out. So again, thank you so much for purchasing the Chorus Riser templates, and I hope they work as well for you as they did for me. Take care.